Today we're going to be talking about Unit 6, Lesson 4, Photosynthesis and Cellular Respiration. They are two separate processes that occur in plants, and we're going to go over both of them today. First of all, we need to talk about cells. Energize. How do cells in an organism function? First of all, a cell is in every living thing. Some living things are only made up of one cell. Some are made up of many cells. And all living things are either plants or animals, so they either have an animal cell, which is the picture shown below, or a plant cell, which is more squarish and a little bit different organelles. Those are miniature organs in each cell that help it function. So first of all, cells must capture and use energy, or they will die. Without energy, living things cannot replace cells, build body parts, or reproduce. So that always has to happen. There has to be cell replacement going on, because if your cells die, they need to be replenished. We need to be building body parts, possibly, if we're developing fetuses, are especially important at doing that, and for reproduction. Food contains chemical energy that cells need to carry out life processes. So the reason that we eat is basically to help our cells continue to give us the energy we need. How do cells in an organism function? Well, we already know this. We know what producers are. They're making their own food. Most make food from the sun. Some actually use chemicals to make their food. And that's what we're going to focus on today, are the producers, because they're the ones who have the plant cells and are making their own food. Consumers have to eat other living things to get their food. They could eat other producers or consumers. And decomposers, of course, we know they get their energy by breaking down dead organisms and waste and then returning it back to the soil so that other plants can use it and use the nitrogen to grow much larger. I want you to take a break here, pause the video, go to page 323, and do question number 7. Cooking with chloroplasts. How do plant cells make food? Photosynthesis, you've heard of this. We've talked about this briefly in Lesson 3. Photosynthesis is a process that plants use energy from the sun, carbon dioxide, and water to make their own food, and their food is glucose or sugar. Oxygen is released in the air during photosynthesis, so while plants breathe in the carbon dioxide and release oxygen, which is opposite of humans, we breathe in the oxygen and release carbon dioxide. How do plants make their own food? Photosynthesis takes place in organelles called chloroplasts. Remember, organelles are tiny little organs that are inside each and every cell, and cells are microscopic. They are very, very small. Chloroplasts are where photosynthesis will take place. There's a green pigment inside the chloroplast that look like chlorophyll, or that are called chlorophyll, and they actually are the ones that capture the light from the sun. That green pigment helps the chloroplast to capture the energy from the sunlight. Energy is combined with carbon dioxide and water to form a sugar called glucose, and also oxygen gas is given off in the process of photosynthesis. I want you to visualize it on page 324, and do question number 8. That will really help you if you read over the visualize it part first. You'll be able to see the chloroplast, and there's a picture of a plant cell there. Here is the chemical equation for photosynthesis. You should commit this to memory. What this says is 6 carbon dioxide, CO2 is carbon dioxide, 6 of those, plus 6 waters, H2O is water, plus energy from the sun, go to make C6H12O6, which is glucose, that's the sugar, that's the plant food, and 6 oxygen. So this is your photosynthesis equation. 6 carbon dioxides plus 6 waters plus energy from the sun makes glucose and 6 oxygens. Glucose stores chemical energy, and plants store the glucose. So the chemical energy for the plant is stored in the glucose. When organisms eat plants, they use the stored sugars for energy. So remember, we talked about 10% of the energy is transferred from one thing to the next when it's eaten. So 10% of the energy that's stored in that plant will be, approximately 10%, will be passed on to whatever organism eats the plant. Okay, how do plant cells make food? Do you remember this? This is the chloroplast, and the sunlight is being captured there using the chlorophyll. The organelle below is the chloroplast. Okay, pause the video and go to page 325 and do question number 9, please. There's a great picture of the chloroplast and shows you that light energy is helping it make oxygen and sugar. Mighty mitochondria. How do cells get energy from food? There are lots of organelles inside of a cell. Today we're going to basically focus on the chloroplast and the mitochondria. Energy in sugars is stored in a molecule called adenosine triphosphate. We shorten that to be ATP. So the energy in the sugars is stored in this ATP. Cellular respiration is the process of breaking down food to make ATP. So remember we said we're going to talk about two processes, photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And I'm going to show you how those connect. So photosynthesis has to happen first. We have to make glucose and oxygen. And then cellular respiration is going to break down the food and make ATP, which is where the energy is stored. Go to page 326 and read page 326. Now, cellular respiration takes place in something called the cytoplasm, which is, you can think of it kind of like jello. So this jello kind of surrounds the cell, and this is where cellular respiration is going to take place, and the cell membranes of prokaryotic cells. In eukaryotes, that's organisms with a nucleus, cellular respiration takes place in something called the mitochondria. Glucose first has to be broken down into 2 3-carbon molecules in the cytoplasm, which will release energy. So remember, when we finished photosynthesis, we ended with glucose. Now, photosynthesis has to happen before cellular respiration, so you're going to see how they are connected here in just a minute. Oxygen then enters the cell and travels to the mitochondria, and as the 3-carbon molecules are broken down, energy is captured and stored as ATP. Remember, that's where they store energy, in the ATP molecules, the adenosine triphosphate. The products of cellular respiration are ATP, carbon dioxide, and water. In many animals, carbon dioxide is carried to the lungs to be released during breathing, and some of the energy produced during cellular respiration is released as heat. Remember, law of conservation of energy says energy can't be created or destroyed, only changing forms. So it's going to either be released through breathing or released as heat. Much of the energy produced is transferred or changed over to ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, where it can be stored. So here is your cellular respiration equation. If you remember, we ended photosynthesis with this molecule of glucose, C6H12O6, and 6 oxygens. And now, those are the starting point for cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is going to start with glucose and oxygen. It's going to make carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. What is the role of the mitochondria during cellular respiration? They're the powerhouse of the cell, right? They're making this happen. Go to page 327, read and answer question number 12. Okay, how are photosynthesis and cellular respiration connected? Here's a picture of a plant cell. This blue stuff in the background would be the cytoplasm, which we've talked about. And you just saw the mitochondria right back here. They look kind of bean-shaped. This picture is too small for you to be able to really see them. Plants need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and they release oxygen. Cellular respiration releases carbon dioxide, but needs oxygen to work. So photosynthesis and cellular respiration are linked, each depending on the products of the other. There are some times when oxygen is not necessary for the process to occur. Anaerobic respiration can occur without the presence of oxygen if it is in low supply. Fermentation is a form of anaerobic respiration, and actually yeasts do fermentation. They don't need oxygen to do that. And also the body can use anaerobic respiration during times of hard exercise. There's a lactic acid is produced during that time, and that makes the muscle sore. So when you're working out really hard and your muscles are aching, that's because there's not enough oxygen circulating in your body, so your cells are continuing to do the work that you're asking them to do with a lack of oxygen. And when they do that, that's called anaerobic respiration, lactic acid is made, and that gives you that burn in your muscles. Okay, I want you to remember to please do a visa And to make sure you have your notes ready for class tomorrow, bring me your questions and we'll have a discussion.